Welcome back to Passing Time with Craig. As always, I'm your host, Craig, and in today's episode, we are chatting with Sarah Scott, a fellow podcaster. We're going to chat all about what it's like to interview people, how she got into the business, moving from radio over to this, and then she's also got a live studio session. So always nice to chat with somebody else in the industry, get their opinions on things, and we had a good chat. So here's my interview with Sarah Scott.
Hi, Greg. It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Like I mentioned to you a bit earlier, I think your podcast is fabulous because you talk to so many different kinds of people, like authors, filmmakers, sports people, and just a lot of really cool entrepreneurs and all that kind of stuff. So it's an absolute pleasure to join you today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Like I said, I love just chatting with people. So I'm excited to chat with you. And, it's nice to have somebody else who knows how to chat be the host. So, you know, I guess let's get into it. How did you decide? You started Studio B podcast back in 2019. How did you know that you wanted to do this?
Well, yeah. So I started Studio B podcast in October of 2019 because I come from a radio and media background, but I specifically work on the music side of things. So I was working in country music at the time, and I noticed a lot of artists asking me a lot of questions about the industry. And I didn't know a lot of them back then because I was only about 2 years into my position there. But I was also super curious. So I decided, I'm like, why not give artists a one stop shop on all the questions they've asked me with different industry professionals? So I talked to people that I've worked with finances for artists. I've talked with people like songwriters, producers, tour managers, tour strategists, and all that kind of stuff, just to give them a place to go that wasn't costing thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars, just to have some of their questions answered. And I didn't want to take away jobs from anybody because I've taken those courses myself, but I wanted to give them an extra opportunity to get even more insight. And then it kind of expanded from there a little bit. It's not a super long story, but there's like three different versions of the story because it turned into three iterations of the podcast. So in 2021, I got my first layoff from that radio station, and that sucks when it happens. But I saw an opportunity to take two of the programs that I did from that station that were not coming back on air to a whole new level with this podcast. So, One to Watch Wednesday, which features independent and emerging artists from across Canada. And that was all genres at the time. And then I also did a show called Made in Alberta. Now, Made in Alberta was not my show. The radio station already had that. So I had to name it something else. I called it Homemade in Alberta. And that was just specifically for Alberta country musicians. And that went really great because I love supporting Alberta music and I love supporting Canadian music, of course. And that was also because I realized that with the way that radio is currently going, a lot of artists are losing opportunities to showcase their music, showcase their stories, and really get their name out there. And I figured with the podcast, since it is universal, what a great opportunity for them to get them a bigger audience, a more diverse audience, and a really cool way to kind of showcase their music. And then in January of this year, I decided to just go back to all of it, just Studio B podcast. That's it. And I interview industry and artists the exact same way because they both work so hard and they both put a lot of effort into what they do and how they do it in the industry. So why not put the spotlight on everybody equally? So now I speak to a lot more industry professionals and I also speak to a lot more artists. And right now it is kind of focused on country music, but coming up in the next few weeks, I got an opera singer coming on. I got a rock band coming on. I got a lot more diversity coming when it comes to genres. But long story short, that is what made me decide to do Studio B podcast. But there is a bit more to the story, of course, because I just love music. And what I want to do with this podcast is I want to make people feel like they're in the know about these artists before they get big. I want to make them feel like, oh my goodness, like I really know who they are. I can really hear who they are and really feel who they are through their songs, through these conversations, and through the original songs I add into the episodes, because it's just such a fun thing to do because these artists deserve the attention and they deserve the kind of support that they are asking in most cases. So yeah, that's kind of where it all came from.
Well, and you brought up a point that I was going to ask you. So I'm like, let's just ask this now. Is because I have some very good friends who have been in the radio industry for years and they have all lost their jobs in the past year. Radio is, I don't know what the next step is. I went to school for radio broadcasting and I graduated in 2013. And then I was like, there's something, you know what? I'm not going to go into radio. I'm going to find things that I learned in this program and take it with me. And so we're at a very interesting place where radio stations are losing people. They're just going away. They're having minimal people running multiple radio stations now, which does make it again harder to focus on those up and coming local artists and the ones you could actually get in studio all the time. Like people like hearing, more than just the radio host. They get to chat with somebody. Cool if they, manage to get Bruce Springsteen or Blake Shelton who's in town for a quick 2-minute interview. But if you could bring somebody in, and so I think that's what's great. Have you found that artists are really excited to chat with you because this is their opportunity to sell themselves out of like for no cost?
Yeah, they really get excited about it. And I've noticed over the last 2 years specifically, people have started reaching out to me to be on the podcast. I'm no longer having to reach out to them, which was okay with me. Like, I love being like, hey, like, chat with me. I want to get to know you more. I want to share your music and stuff. But they started coming to me now, and that feels really, really special. And I get just as excited as them to speak with them, to get their music out, to share them with the world because they are just a shining star. And I just get to put the spotlight on them a little bit more and showcase them a little bit more. So it's just as exciting for me to be able to showcase them as it is for them to possibly be, well, not possibly, they are being showcased on the podcast. I absolutely love being able to celebrate our Canadian talent in this way.
Yeah, and again, I mean, there's a reason. There's so many reasons what's going on with radio. But part of it is that people can just listen to whatever music they want on Spotify or Apple, and podcasts are growing more because sometimes they need more than just that 30-second sound bite isn't enough. So they want to learn more. So now you're getting this platform to showcase, and people are now listening to them, and now they can go and find the music. I think that's just super helpful for everybody, like the consumer and the artist.
It really is. And radio these days, they're actually taking numbers from streaming services before they add the song to their playlist. So it's
Really?
no longer just the charts anymore. It's like if these artists are seeing a demand in their music on Spotify or iTunes or Amazon, radio will start to pay attention. So what I started telling artists a while ago, and this is just my opinion, and this is just kind of what I was taught, was get your streaming numbers up before you submit to radio because radio now looks at streaming numbers. They look at your content and how much engagement you're getting. They're also looking at your YouTube. They're looking at everything now, not just if you're in the top 40, the top 30, the top 20. They're looking at everything now. And it does seem daunting and it does seem intimidating when I say that, but it's not impossible to get on the radio. And it is still very relevant for many different types of artists these days, especially country music, because a lot of people keep saying, well, radio's dead or radio's dying. It's not. Local community radio is still going very, very strong. And I still fully support it because it is so crucial for everybody, So I don't ever want to see it go away. But streaming services, I definitely will champion as well because it allows artists to be who they are wherever they're at in their career and just to put out music whenever they want so people can hear it. And there was this quote by Rick Rubin that said, you're successful once you put your work out into the world. And Spotify and streaming services allow for that to happen with the artist. It's no longer dependent on getting a song on the radio. You can just submit it to Spotify through like TuneCore or CD Baby or something like that, and boom, you're out in the world, and then you're already successful. So it is a bit daunting when I say, yeah, radio people aren't just looking at Billboard or the charts anymore. They're looking at everything. So it's something, but it's not going away.
Yeah, it's not going away. I think there's a big change happening, and I think we're gonna find like they always go through these cycles, and I think it's gonna come back. I mean, there's so many people who it's just easier for them to go on the radio, and sometimes it's not even like necessarily music stations that are still, but like people are still listening to those. Like, we need our traffic reports, we need our weather, we need to know what's going on in the city, in the country. So there's still a need for radio station, and going to that local level is still very important.
Definitely. And also, a lot of us leave our radios on for our pets. So
Yeah.
shout out to all the dogs out there. They're our biggest fans.
They are. So what has been some of the surprising challenges about doing Studio B and everything you've got going on with it?
Well, when I first started in 2019, all the way up until January of this year, it was more of a hobby for me because I did have a full-time job. I was working a lot, and it was just something I wanted to give artists and industry to be able to showcase what they do and who they are. But since I got laid off again in December of last year, the radio, let me tell you, I,
Bye.
surprise, I decided to make it more of a full-time thing and really start working on it as a full-time career. And it's interesting because I really started thinking about why did I start this podcast? What inspired me to really want to help out artists and emerging artists and independent artists and even bigger artists, and what really inspired me to want to help the industry the way that I love to help the industry. And so I ended up having to really dive deep and really start like trying to figure out what makes my podcast stand out compared to other music podcasts and other interviewing kind of podcasts. And I really had to just figure all that out. I really don't know at the moment because I feel like I'm still fairly new into the process, but the challenges I'm having right now are getting my listenership up, monetizing,
Yeah.
and also just getting people to like my content on social media because, 6 likes on a post. I'm like, no, please, I need you to know about this artist and I need you to know about this industry professional. Pay attention to them, because it's not about me, it's about them. And I really just want to get the word out for them of who they are. So I have talked to marketing people. I have hired a marketing company to work with me. And right now I'm in the process of working on those challenges of getting my listenership up, getting more interaction on social media, and also just helping me get my message out the best that I can to not just say, hey, listen to my podcast, but here's why you should listen to it. And here's why it's beneficial for you as a general audience member or emerging artist yourself or industry member that wants to hear about more new music.
Yeah, and I mean, it's it, it's a podcast that is for any of those areas, whatever you may be. I think it's super important for people in the industry, whether you are specifically a musician, but I think it's also so important. Another aspect as I was listening to some of your stuff and researching about you, I was thinking it's people who have venues. I think this is something that people need to listen to because they're gonna start hearing about these musicians. And if you want to stand out, you can be the one who reach out to these artists to
Yeah.
bring them in to your bar, to your brewery, your concert space, whatever it may be, to bring those people in because that just helps everybody again. It helps your business, it helps the artist. That's an important part, I think.
And right now, the artists that I'm interviewing, most of them, and even the industry people, they're fairly accessible and they want to play the shows and they want to get out there and they want to showcase their music. And with that, like where it all really starts is back in 2001. So it's just a baby over here is that love of I heard Coldplay for the first time in 2001 with their song Yellow, and it was Entertainment Tonight is where I saw that clip of them talking about it. And I remember hearing the song being like, holy cow, what is this? Who is this? I love this band. And I kind of went down a rabbit hole because at the time, 2001, we didn't have a lot of internet. We didn't have all the resources
Yeah.
we do today. But I ended up doing as much research as I could about them. And then I found Snow Patrol. I found The Script. I found all these other bands out there that were just amazing. And there's so much music out there if you just look. But I kept looking and looking and looking. And I fell in love with all these indie bands that no one's ever heard of. And I'm asking my friends, I'm like, have you heard of the Weepies? Have you heard of Silverstein? Have you heard of Snow Patrol? Have you heard of all these indie bands? They're like, no, what are you talking about? And they didn't think they were good because they weren't in the top 40. They weren't on the radio. Or if they were on the radio, they weren't on till 1 or 2 in the morning on those weird shows that, I still listen to sometimes because they're kind of cool and I still find new music. And it felt like I had this cool little secret inside of me of I know who these bands are and they're so cool. But at the same time, I'm like, I want to shout at the top of my lungs, hear about these bands, and when you're 11 years old, you don't really have the resources to kind of get the word out about that.
Yeah.
But then I got the job in radio. I should back this up, actually. I wanted to be a Much Music VJ forever. That was my main goals, be on Much Music. And I wanted to work on CMT. I wanted to work on these country stations and these music stations. And I wanted to be a VJ really, really bad because I thought that's a great way to talk about these artists and these music people and all that kind of stuff. And I watched The Wedge on Much Music religiously. I loved The Wedge. It was on Thursday nights. It was at 11 o'clock. So I had to tape it or sneak downstairs after everyone went to bed to watch it.
We never did that. Never.
That's Mom, if you're listening. I never did that. But I did that. And then, I had these dreams and stuff. So whenever somebody asked me, what do you want to do for a living? I said, I want to be a Much Music DJ. And I did that for years and years, because it all then goes back to my younger years, back in like 2000. I think it was actually the year 2000. I took vocal lessons. I took piano lessons. I took choir. I was in musical theater. I was a performer my whole life. Like up until I was 18, I was a massive performer, but I never felt like I really fit in the performer aspect of things. I was like, I have fun. I can sing. I can play piano. I can perform really, really well. But I never felt like that was my lane. I felt like my lane was putting the spotlight on the performers. So between Much Music and The Wedge and Entertainment Tonight and E-Talk and all these talk shows talking about the entertainment industry and the music, that was my conclusion at the end of the day, is like, I don't want to be a performer. I want to be a presenter. And so I signed up for SAIT, and I went to SAIT for broadcast news. I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was a really great program. But by the time I graduated, SAIT Much Music didn't exist anymore the way that it used to. So then I had to pivot. And so in September of 2010, I decided to go to the University of Calgary. So I went to the University of Calgary for their 2+2 program with SAIT. So I took communications. So I have that degree now in communication studies, and I still use it every day, which is amazing. But I graduated and I'm like, no, I don't want to do any of this. It's all a conspiracy. That's just the way it was back then. I'm like, I took a lot of philosophy classes. I'll say that. I didn't really take any music classes or anything like that. So I was on a whole other spectrum of life. And so I tried to get communications jobs. I tried to do a bunch of stuff. I was an entrepreneur for a bit. But then it was, I think April of 2018, I got a call from my mom saying, hey, the radio station in town is hiring, the one in High River that I started working at. And I'm like, I'm not moving back to High River. That's not fun. But obviously the rest is history, because I ended up working at that radio station for 4.5 years before I got laid off. And then I worked in Lloydminster on their morning show on New Country 95.9. And that was really fun. I did that for 2.5 years. I loved Stingray. I loved my job there. I loved everything about that position. And then, I got laid off there in March of 2024. So, life happens. And is what it was. And then I got a job again for a pop station. And it was kind of like a mixed pop station in September of 2024. So I got hired again at a radio station. I was doing the afternoon show. It was a good job. It wasn't really a good fit for me, though. And we both kind of agreed. But it was a layoff. So I'm like, okay, well, cool. They're like, sorry, we blew our budget. And I'm like, okay. But no hard feelings. It's the business, right? Like I said. And so now here we are today. And I feel like that was a very long-winded story. I apologize. I talk a lot. But I just love music so much. And I want people to feel the same way I do when I hear a new artist or when I hear a new song. And it's just that light bulb moment goes off and you're like, who are these people? I want to know everything about them. And it's like, from there on out, you get to watch their career grow for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and you got to see where they started and you get to see where they end. And that is just the coolest experience, because like, who was your first favorite artist that you ever listened to?
I mean, I remember just being obsessed, and this is like 5 years old, I guess it was. Yeah, 5, 6. Just being obsessed with Spice Girls.
I love the Spice Girls.
That was like my first thing that I really remember of just like knowing music videos and songs and just who they were. Was everything before that time, I feel, was just like it was Disney songs and just I knew songs. It was what my dad was listening to and mom, but that was the first time that I really like took notice and was like, wait, what is this?
So what was it about them that made you go, wait, what is this? Like, what did you love about them?
I think that it was really fun, and they all had their different, I think it hit at a time where I was still so in, like, it's that age where it's Power Rangers and it's just all these TV shows where there's characters and they all have their personality traits. And I think that's what it was with that, is that everybody was like, I could connect to one of these 5, like I'm the sporty, I'm the baby, like you could relate to them. I think that was what just like clicked in for me, that it was easy to first associate them with personalities and like personality traits, and then know who they are.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I want to do with this podcast, is I want them to feel that connection with the artist in that way of like, I can relate to them, or like, that's a similar story to me, or they can relate to their songs. And so that's what I want to do with the podcast. And I'm sure we'll talk about this in a second, but I also started doing live shows as well with the podcast. But yeah, long story short, I just want to make connections with this podcast between the artist, the industry, and the artist, and the artists and the fans.
Yeah. Yeah. Just all about connections. I mean,
Yeah.
there's plus and minuses to social media. Everybody talks about that all the time. We all know the plus and minuses. But if you highlight the pluses, which is a way for people to freely promote their stuff and get their name out there and interact with people, like it's a great resource. There's still plenty of people, mega stars, who really don't need to, so they don't go on social media, or they don't post like what everybody else does, because they're like, well, I've been in this public eye for so long, I need some privacy. Totally fair. But everybody else is like, no, and again, you're following someone and you just seeing like, oh my God, they love McDonald's at 2 a.m. as well. Cool. I could relate to that. And then you're like, oh, I'd like more of their music. I'm going to listen to it more. Just kind of pops in your head all the time.
Yep. And like the amount of products I have purchased because someone I liked also did it.
Yeah,
It's a little insane. I'm like, oh my God, I bought so many Celsiuses because someone else did. Or like I bought a lip gloss, or I bought like I bought like fitness clothes or whatever. It's just because someone I liked bought that product, But also what I was thinking about was a lot of people, of course, when they hear about an artist on the radio or they hear them on Spotify, the first place they're going to go is social media, which is great, fabulous. But social media, as you know, is just a very positive version of their life, which is great. We want to see them doing their best. We want to see them at their best. We want to see what's going on in their world the way they want us to see it.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. That's what they want us to see. So the conversations I have with these artists are a little bit deeper than that, because I want people to feel that connection with them a little bit more personally. And I feel like the artists do appreciate that, because when I was younger, I wanted to know everything about the artist I could, because then I felt like really connected to them. Don't worry, I wasn't a stalker and I wasn't obsessive, but maybe with Orlando Bloom a little bit, but
Yeah, that's fine.
that's fine. But yeah, so I love social media. I think it is such a wonderful platform. I think that it's helped out a lot of people, especially over the last 5 years with all the options you can do with it now. And with everything on your phone, like CapCut and like Snapseed and all these like editing devices, and even TikTok. I was so against TikTok for so long, but now I'm like, hey, I love you. But yeah, so I think social media is fabulous, but what I want to do with this podcast is I just want to make those deeper connections. And I really want people to know who the artist is. And I really want them to hear the stories behind the songs, because it's just so important for the artist, because they're so desperate to share their stories. Well, maybe desperate may not be the right word, but I know they want to share who they are. I know they want to share their story. And if I'm able to provide them with a platform that they're comfortable being on, oh my goodness, it just warms my heart so much. And I'm so happy to help them.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, and I wanted to, you mentioned Alberta music, Canadian music, but I really want to focus on Alberta music right now. You reached out because you first heard with Sonia Jaleo, who I've loved. She's fantastic. And so then that's how I got acquainted with you and started going through your stuff. And you mentioned Alberta artists. I've had multiple guests on before, some great singers, but I want to hear from you, especially as someone who's like such a fan of this industry. What is it about Alberta music, Alberta musicians that are just so great?
Oh my goodness, I could go off on this because Alberta, I've noticed, is like a big family. It doesn't matter what genre you are in. Everybody is happy to work with everybody and collaborate and songwrite and try new things. And we're all very supportive of each other. And it's like a community like no other. And the talent is unbridled. Like I tell you, it's just like, you have Jenny Harlock, for example. You have like Clayton Bellamy. You have Candace Ryan. You have all these incredible artists like Rome IX and Plavel and oh my goodness, who was I talking to the other day? Like KJ Miller and Eden Taylor and Steve Jevney. Like these artists are just incredible. And everybody is just so happy to work with everybody. And it is like a family. Like we have the Country Music Alberta Awards every year. And even if you're not from Alberta and you show up to these awards, we will take you in and you're one of our own for the weekend. Like you're an honorary Albertan. And if you're a pop artist coming in to the awards just to connect with people, or you're an R&B artist coming into the awards just to connect with people, everybody's more than welcome. And even with the YYC Music Awards or with any sort of networking event or any sort of like music event in Calgary, everybody is so welcome. And it's not just like, oh yeah, you can come in. It's a genuine welcoming family feeling. And between the talent, the community, the family, the relationships, that is what I love about Alberta music. And I would never change a thing and I would never leave it. I mean, one day I might have to, but I hope I don't
Yeah.
because I love it so much.
And before we get into your live sessions,
Mhm.
but I figure this is kind of a nice segue, is like, don't you just find too when you go to these concerts like of these artists, more local artists, and you're at these, smaller venues, maybe it only fits 50 to 100 people. Don't you just find those are some of the best concerts you ever go to?
Ugh. They're so good because it feels like you're really not just connecting with the artist because they're able to be a little bit more conversational, but you're connecting with the crowd because I have made some really, really good friends at concerts. Like at my friend Eric's concert, I met one of my greatest friends, Marina, and then I was at another one of his concerts in Nanton and I met another woman named Catherine. And you make friends with people at these concerts when they're super intimate. And Tyler Hilton, have you heard of Tyler Hilton before?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Chris Cutler from Montreal, like, he was in Calgary in November, and my friend Morgan and I went to go see him, and it's a bigger venue at the Palomino is where he played, but he played in the basement, and it was maybe, like, 150, 200 people, so it seems like a lot, but it's such a cool space,
Mhm.
and it's like, "Oh my god, I got to touch his leg." So you get that aspect too, you get to be a bit creepy, but you get to meet him, you get to talk to them, you get to know him a bit better, but I love the intimate shows. I haven't been to a Saddle Dome show since I think 2019, and I'm okay with that because I prefer live, smaller, intimate shows. What has been your favorite show so far, like a smaller show?
I was gonna say the Palomino is one of my favorite venues to go to. I absolutely love it there. It just being downstairs in the basement. I love the way it is set up where you have the bar right in the middle, and I've seen some great shows. I haven't seen them in a while, but one of my favorites is my buddy Jordan Moe's in it, the Ashley Hundreds. I absolutely love the an Octoduck. He's in a couple, and like some of those shows have been my absolute favorite ones. I love going. I love when my friends are in bands because they're not necessarily my genre, but I'm like, yeah, I'll go check it out. Or like I can say I'm with the band. And they're just, yeah, it's always fun because it's just their friends and family and fans. And then you get new fans every single time. That's why I always love that most of these times there's three bands on them, or three bands or three singers, and they're always like, okay, you're headlining, but we're still giving you enough time for these other two acts. And it's very much that family connection, as you mentioned earlier. And so everybody's there. And then you're discovering this, you're there because your friends in band one. You've seen band two before. This is your first time seeing band three. And all of a sudden you love band three. And then you start following them. And then you're starting to go, oh, band three's performing at this venue.
Yeah, live music is so crucial for every community, for everyone, because it creates those connections and it creates a better and more vibrant environment for everyone, because it's like I said, I've met some of the coolest people at concerts and I would never want to, well, I've obviously met people in other ways too, but some of the best friends I've had have been through music and at concerts. And I mean, I also love the King Eddie. I got to give a shout out to King Eddie because I always get amazing service there and they always have a really good show on. And I haven't been there in a few weeks, but I got to get back there. But they always have great music. So
I was
yeah,
also going to say, like, you can also, by going to Palomino, King Eddie, Ironwood, like, Blues Can is in the moment of transitioning, unfortunately, new location. But you go to those places, and also, not only have you paid maybe max $28 to go see this concert, you're also getting hell of a lot cheaper drinks than the
yeah,
Saddle Dome. $14 for a beer?
I think when we were at Rogers Place back in 2022, we paid $36 for two drinks and there were two singles. And I'm like, Kyle, why did we do this? He's like, I don't know, but we're not doing that again. I'm like, no. So
Yeah. No, so I mean, you can have a night out. I know, and that's, I've mentioned this before on my podcast, but by supporting local, like, I know the economy's tough right now and like shit's about to happen with tariffs and stuff. Like, you can go to these local venues, and they usually have local craft beer. There's local distilleries as well. I mean, if you don't drink, you can also just support them by just getting a pop. Like, it's totally fine. And you can have a great night out and get more bang for your buck than going to see a concert at the Saddle Dome where you're sitting way up in the nosebleeds for $250.
Yeah, and that's a really great point there. It's like, yeah, maybe 15, $20, 25 max a ticket, and you're going to get an intimate live show with the same quality you would get if a bigger artist was playing that same show. Because, I mean, yeah, there are big artists that play the King Eddie or the Palomino, but the tickets are still cheap, and you're supporting local employees, you're supporting local breweries, you're supporting local venues, and it's just awesome. Like, I think it is just so awesome to be able to support live music in that way.
Yeah, it's totally awesome. So speaking of live music,
Yeah.
live
Also, one
session.
point. Sorry, I just wanted to say this too. Sorry, I was just thinking about this. The artists really appreciate them being there too. Like, it's not like someone at the Saddle Dome, like Eric Church, who's like, "I'm here playing a show, yay!" It's like Rob and Ashley on that stage being like, "Oh my god, people showed up to my show. This is amazing. Thank you so much." Like, they really, really appreciate you being there, and they will remember you. They do. Like, I've had the pleasure of like watching artists get to some pretty big levels, and they still talk to you like they're your friend, like they're your best friend. So they will remember you. So go to the live shows, you're going to make a friend.
Yeah. And also, if you are debating about it and your friends are like, "You're not gonna come," don't be a jerk and wait till the last minute. If you've got the night free, just book your ticket so that
Thank
the
you. Yeah.
artist and the hosts, the event hosts, the planners can be less stressed because they've sold these tickets, even though it's great that 30 people in their life say, "Yeah, I totally gonna get a ticket. Totally." Well, I need to know so I can let the venue know.
Yeah. Or they say, like, "Oh, yep, I'll be there. I'll see you there." And then they don't show up. And I'm like, "Sir, madam, person, why?" Like,
Just say
you weren't
no.
there. Just
Yeah,
say you can't come.
just so you can't come. But yes, our live sessions, Studio B live sessions, you started doing this. We got a couple one coming up here. May 16th, I Am the Mountain and Megan Dawson. That's happening at the Limber Hollow.
Yep.
And then June 21st, Nick Foley and Miles Cannon is going to be down in High River. Tell me about the live shows and these upcoming ones.
Yeah, so actually I did have another one pop up too since we last talked. I'm not too sure when this episode is going to air, but I have one on April 25th as well. If this is going to be played before April 25th, make sure you come to Congress Coffee because I have Maddie Lee Mars and Austin Ryder joining us that night, and they're country artists from Calgary and Manitoba, and that's going to be fabulous. Tickets are $10 for that. And that's just going to be on the Congress Coffee website. But yeah, so Studio B live sessions, the official idea started last April. So April of 2024, because I'm like, I could do this. It could be fun because all of my favorite podcasts were going live, with their Reddit stories or, Girls Gotta Eat or something like that, or their comedy shows. So I'm like, I can do that. But I wasn't ready last year. I didn't have the following. I didn't have the listenership. I didn't have a lot of stuff that I thought I could. So put it on hold, but I still had the idea in my head. And then it all comes back to, yeah, January of this year. I'm like, I can still do this, but now I actually have time to do this. Do I have a lot of the resources? No. Do I have the followers? No. Do I have the listeners? Not yet. But sometimes you just gotta take action and go from there. That was my mindset. Has it been a bit stressful? Heck yeah. But I've had a lot of fun along the way because a lot of artists have been really on board with this. Now, with Studio B podcast live sessions, they are a lot different than the episodes. But if you do love the episodes, if you do love the conversations, if you love late night talk shows and you love live music, these live sessions are for you because it's all those things all in one. So it is a double bill each show. So you get two different shows in one. So it's two different artists, two different conversations, 6 songs all together. So for example, with the one I have coming up here, just like I said, I don't know when this episode is going to air, but on April 12th, for example, is Cass Jade, who is a pop rock artist out of Calgary, and then Stark Sky, which is a folk Americana acoustic duo out of Airdrie. So 2 very different genres of music, 2 very different artists. So it's 2 shows in one. It's a double bill, and it's longer conversations with the artists. It's more music from the artists as well. And there's also an audience Q&A. So people get to ask the artists questions about themselves that I may not have thought about or that they've always been curious about the music industry. So it's not only extra conversation, extra music, it's also interactive. And that's what I want is I want the audience to connect with the artists on a different level, on a personal level, and to have cool conversations with them. And it's a casual, fun environment. And I've had a few shows so far. And at every show, everybody there leaves friends. Like everybody talks to everybody. And that's what I want. I want the networking. I want the community. I want the connection, not just with other people in the audience, but with the artists, because they just come out and they just hang out with everybody. That's what I want. So
Yeah.
once again, it goes back to, hearing from the heart of the artist and having real candid conversations in person and allowing them to connect with different people or, you know, my family or your family or whoever shows up, but I really encourage people to come out because it is so fun. And even with the one on May 16th at Limber Hollow, which is a new event space in Calgary, just north of Chinook, just before Cemetery Hill there, going into downtown. Fabulous venue. Those tickets are $15 on side door, or you can go to my socials, which we'll talk about after, to get those tickets too. And that's with, I Am the Mountain and Megan the Mountain. They're a folk Americana band out of Calgary, and they got new music coming out. So you're going to hear it all first at this live session, which I'm really excited about. And Megan Dawson is an award-winning Country Music Alberta country artist. So once again, 2 different shows in one show. Conversation and then songs is going to be great. And the drinks there, fabulous. The service, fabulous. They got couches. They have like the best setup you can think of. It's just so comfortable. It's very casual. So grab those tickets because it's going to be a good show. And then the one on June 21st with Nick Poley and Miles Canyon, they're both country artists. Now, Miles Canyon is originally from Saskatchewan. He just moved to Alberta. So I'm excited to put him a little bit more on the Alberta map with this show. And Nick Poley is a rising country star out of Calgary as well. And he's done like cowboy shows. He's played at Ranchman's. He's played a ton of places around Calgary. He's getting his name out there quite a bit. But with this show, it's not in Calgary. It is at the venue in High River. And I volunteer with the venue, and I have since 2018. And they're this fabulous nonprofit. And they're trying to build a building that is going to be a studio. It's going to be a performing arts space. It's going to have artists in residence. It's going to be a multidisciplinary area for all kinds of arts, whether you're visual, whether you're a dancer, a musician, a songwriter, or a podcaster. They're going to have a space for everybody. So at the venue, it's a free show or by donation, which I do encourage donation because those donations go towards the building fund, but it's an outdoor show too. So make sure you have like your bug spray and your sunscreen and all that stuff. And the show on the venue starts at 7 p.m. and it's once again 2 hours, and it's going to be fabulous. And you're going to be supporting not just like the artists on this one, but you're going to be supporting a nonprofit that really supports live music in Alberta as well, because it is in the heart of High River. And these people truly have a heart for supporting the arts. And it's not just musicians, it's all kinds. So that's happening June 21st at the venue, 7 p.m. by donation. Please come to that in High River.
Awesome. Well, so what is your favorite aspect of hosting these live sessions?
It's so casual. Like, it's just you're up there having a conversation with these artists. And I feel like it allows them to open up a lot more. Like, once you're sitting there kind of like laid back, chilling, just kind of having some fun, it's just a really unique experience because it is 2 different shows in one. That's one of my favorite aspects of it too, is because you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what's going to come out of the artist's mouth. I mean, they're pretty chill. They're pretty professional. I haven't had an incident yet, but even if we did, it'd still be funny. But my favorite part of it has to be just the casualness of it and the conversations that I get to have with these artists and how they do open up and how they do candidly share their stories from their heart. And they are comfortable talking with me. And I think that's very, very special. And I feel like so far the audiences have walked away just being like, that was really cool. Like, wow, we've never heard an artist talk like that before, And it's also really great to be able to help them showcase who they really are in a live setting. And if they're really, really fresh artists, which I've had on, it gives them the opportunity to practice their interview skills in a very comfortable environment. So those are all my favorite aspects of it. I love all of it.
Yeah.
I can't just narrow down one thing. I'm sorry.
No, that's fair. That's fair. It's good that you have a lot of things that you enjoy about it. It's important. If you're just like, I only have this one thing and that's the only thing I like about it, then I've got some notes and you're like, yeah, maybe you should do it.
I just like being on stage. I'm just kidding.
Just like being on stage. That's it.
I get so nervous. Like, I'll be walking around my house just like pacing. And I'm like, okay, these are the questions I have. The artist is going to be comfortable. The audience is going to like them. It's not even about me. I'm just like, how am I going to showcase the artist? Okay. So like, yeah, I get nervous.
Yeah. So let me ask you, as a fellow podcaster, fellow interview host, I've had guests that, just don't know how to chat or have a conversation. And I'm like, I'm bringing you on to promote you. How do you find with people? How do you try to get them to keep chatting?
I have learned how to ask a question multiple times in different ways.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I'm lucky that I've only had 2 interviews like that before out of a lot, but yeah, that's all I kinda do is I just ask the same question over again in different ways.
Yeah.
But
Well,
for the most part, I feel like they're fairly comfortable talking to me, which is nice. But if they're not, they get nervous. That's great too. Like, it means they care. Nervousness is caring, But I always tell artists, I'm like, it's just a conversation. We're just chilling. They want me to edit something out. They'll just text me, hey, edit this out. I'm like, okay, we're editing it. It's edited. We're out. You're good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And now people listening, they want to check out Studio B, the podcast. Is there any episodes in particular you'd like to, really promote right now and say, hey, if you're coming, check me out for the first time, here's one.
All right. Because I'm going to do one for the artist and ones for anybody that wants to listen to. So the one I would love everybody, like absolutely everybody should listen to is the 20-year celebration of the Roadhammers. That is one of my favorite episodes. It just came out a couple of weeks ago, so it's still fresh. They're celebrating 20 years as a band, and they tell you the whole story of how they started and where they're going in the future because they have no plans on slowing down, and that is even more exciting to hear. And they talk a bit about new music coming out as well. I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil it, but it is easily one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. And then if you're an independent or emerging artist listening right now, listen to Jeff Oeda's episode. He is Kyle McKierney's manager. And I mean, I have watched his career over the last 5 years, and I've watched what he's done for Kyle. I've watched what he's done for other artists, and he gives you the lowdown on when you need an artist manager, why you should have a manager, and what the conversations should look like between the artist and the manager. So pretty much how to set you up for success when you're looking for your team as an independent or emerging artist. That is the main conversation there. And also it's just fun because you get to hear about his background too. But yeah, whether you're, not a musician at all, but you're curious about the industry, this is the perfect podcast for you too, because we really get into like the nitty gritty parts of it. Like I used to say that Studio B podcast was the good, the bad, and the ugly parts of the industry all coming out in one podcast.
Yeah.
And so far, like it's just been great conversations. They're all conversations. So I encourage people and I invite people to join in on those conversations.
That's awesome. Well, before we tell everybody where
Mhm.
they can find you, I do always like to ask my guests to tell me something awesome. So you've told me a bunch of stuff that's awesome already, but I want to hear something else that's awesome. And it can be absolutely anything.
Okay, so I know it's like so silly, but I feel like it's kind of a bit of a win. And I finally started getting, and it's like, okay, so this is kind of a bit of a word of encouragement to everyone out there, kind of feel like they're struggling with their own kind of podcast or music. It's taken me 5 years to get here, but I finally started getting really organic fans, not just my friends or family, not just other industry members, but like general public fans who are buying tickets to my shows and like posting about my podcast. And it's only 2 people right now, but I am so thankful for them. And I love them so much because it feels like such a big deal because I've worked so hard to get to that point and it took a while. But I feel like that is so awesome because people are just like finding out about who these artists and these industry people are. And it just happened organically. Like, yeah, I did a lot of promotion on TikTok and socials and stuff like that, but they went out of their way to just like click play on those episodes. And it wasn't like a friend or a family member or an acquaintance or an industry member. It was general public. And I'm like, oh, I'm so stoked on that. Like, oh my goodness. Like I found that out last night. Someone messaged me on Instagram saying, hey, I got 2 tickets to your show. And I'm like, oh, what? Like, holy cow. Like, I don't know you. Like, this is amazing. So it's just, that was really, really awesome. And I'm just so happy. And I really hope they enjoy the show.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. That is an awesome thing for sure. I know what that's like. It's so awesome when people are like, oh, you're listening to me?
Yeah, so attention to be like, what are you listening to me? And then you get a bit embarrassed a little bit because you're like, not embarrassed, but you get like, oh my goodness, people actually listening to me. Like, holy cow, So it's just a really cool feeling. It's, oh,
Yeah, no, that is awesome. I get that. Well, I want more people to check you out. There's lots of different ways. Studio B, tell them everywhere they can find you.
oh my goodness. Okay. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and that's under Studio B Podcast. And you have to put podcast in there. So Studio B Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And then on TikTok, it is Studio B Podcast Prod. And then on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, iTunes is where you can stream it. And if you don't have any of those, you can just go onto Buzzsprout as well and just press play. And it is there for you. And then to get tickets to the live shows, I do have links on all my social media as well. And then if you can't find them, just send me a DM. I will send you those links and boom, those tickets can be all yours.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, people, if you love music, which everybody does, if you're looking for new artists, this is a great podcast to check out. And more importantly, those live sessions is a chance to hear a podcast live and listen to music live. Support local artists. It's so important right now. There is no tariffs on local artists.
Not at all. You get to talk to the artist too.
Yeah, you get to chat with them. And that's just it. If you really want to feel like people are really appreciative, you go to those live music shows wherever they are. And if you have a chance to tell them afterwards, hey, that was great. You were fantastic. That is just going to make someone's day. That is something that is awesome. Just whatever it is, whether it's listening to a podcast or listening to an artist or friends in a play, tell them that they did good. And whether they're your friend or you know them or not, if you're happy with what you saw and heard, tell people.
Yes, share. And that goes for this podcast as well. So if this is your first episode of listening to Passing Time with Craig, I encourage you to listen to all of the episodes because he just talks with so many cool people. And Craig, I love your interview style so much. Like it is such a conversation. And I loved chatting with you today. So thank you so much. It was just a cool conversation. Oh my goodness. Please, everybody go listen to his podcast.
Well, thank
Everybody.
you. Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate that. Everybody go check out Studio B. Go to the live sessions. If you're down in High River, she's coming for you. So you got that. You've got ones here in Calgary and always different venues, which is what I also love as well. So if you're trying to look for different places to check out, go check out a venue. I think I'm going to say this right now, as someone who also hosts events, if you go check out a venue when it's their busiest time because it's an event and you think they did a good job when it's their busiest time, that's good. Go back again when it's a downtime and see that it's and really experience it again. But yeah, check it out when it's the busiest time. I think that's a great sign of how well the place is.
Yep, me too.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Everybody check out Studio B. Thank you, Sarah, for being here today. It was such a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you. I had the best time. I can't wait to tell everybody about your podcast. Thank you so much.
Once again, thank you, Sarah, for being my guest. It was a great time catching up with you, chatting with you, and hearing from a fellow podcaster. Always a good time. Well, make sure to follow me on social media at PTW Craig, Passing Time with Craig, for all the fun ways to pass time. Otherwise, we'll chat soon. Bye. Do, do.